2 Samuel 24. The Lord's anger again raged against Israel, and he incited David against them, saying, "Go count Israel and Judah." The king told Joab, the general in command of his army, "Go through all the tribes of Israel from Dan to Beersheba and muster the army, so I may know the size of the army." Joab replied to the king, "May the Lord your God make the army 100 times larger right before the eyes of the Lord the king. But why does my master the king want to do this?" But the king's edict stood despite the objections of Moab and the leaders of the army. So Joab and the leaders of the army left the king's presence in order to muster the Israelite army. They crossed the Jordan and camped at Aroer on the south side of the city at the Wadi of Gad near Jazer. Then they went to Gilead and in the region of Tatim, Hodshi, coming to Dan Ja'an, and on around to Sidon. Then they went to the fortress of Tyre and all the cities of the Hivites and the Canaanites. They then went to the Negev of Judah, to Beersheba. They went through all the land, and after 9 months and 20 days came back to Jerusalem. Joab reported the number of the warriors to the king. In Israel there were 800,000 sword-wielding warriors, and in Judah there were 500,000 soldiers. David felt guilty after he had numbered the army. David said to the Lord, "I have sinned greatly by doing this. Now, O Lord, please remove the guilt of your servant, for I have acted very foolishly." When David got up the next morning, the Lord's messenger had already come to the prophet Gad, David's seer. "Go tell David, this is what the Lord has said. I am offering you 3 forms of judgment. Pick one of them. I will carry it out against you." Gad went to David and told him, "Shall 7 years of famine come upon the land, or shall one flee for 3 months from your enemies, with them in hot pursuit? Or shall there be 3 days of plague in your land? Now decide what I should tell the one who sent me." David said to Gad, "I am very upset. I prefer that we be attacked by the Lord, for his mercy is great. I do not want to be attacked by human hands." So the Lord sent a plague through Israel from morning until the completion at the appointed time, and 70,000 people died from Dan to Beersheba. Then the angel extended his hand to destroy Jerusalem. The Lord relented from his judgment. He told the angel who was killing people, "That's enough, stop now." Now the angel Lord was near the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. When he saw the angel who was destroying the people, David said to the Lord, "Look, it is I who have sinned and done the evil thing. As for these sheep, what have they done? Attack me and my family." So Gad went to David that day and told him, "Go up and build an altar for the Lord on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite." So David went up as Gad instructed him to do, according to the Lord's instructions. When Araunah looked out and saw the king and his servants approaching him, he went out and bowed to the king with his face to the ground. Araunah said, "Why has my lord the king come to his servant?" David replied, "To buy from you this threshing floor so I can build an altar for the Lord, so that the plague may be removed from the people." Araunah told David, "My lord the king may take whatever he wishes and offer it. Look, here are oxen for burnt offerings and threshing sledges and harnesses for wood. The servant of my lord the king, give it all to the king." Araunah also told the king, May the Lord your God show you favor." But the king said to Araunah, "No, I insist on buying it from you. I will not offer the Lord my God burnt sacrifices that cost me nothing." So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 pieces of silver. Then David built an altar for the Lord there and offered burnt sacrifices and peace offerings, and the Lord accepted prayers from the land, and the plague was removed from Israel. Okay, so it doesn't tell us why the Lord's anger rages against Israel, but also this event, again, is going to be here at the end and not chronological. We just had the last words of David mentioned, and now we're having another occasion. So why is it at the end? Because the threshing floor is going to be connected with worship in Jerusalem and the building of the temple. The temple. So that's why we're going to have it here at the end as it goes into the next, we go into Kings. It's setting up part of that. So we have it at the end of David. It's here. But we don't have why the Lord's anger raged against Israel and is incited against David. So we don't know. So I don't know when this is happening. But go count Israel and Judah. The king told Joab, the general in command of his army, go through all the tribes of Israel from Dan to Beersheba and muster the army so I may know the size of the army. So you're not to count your army. Why? Because you're to trust in God, not in the size of your army. So you're not to count the army. If God has not told you to count the people, you're not supposed to be counting the people. Joab replied to the king, may the Lord your God make the army 100 times larger right before the eyes of my lord the king. But why does my master the king want to do this? So in other words, he's politely saying, this is not a good thing to do. This is not something you're supposed to do. Why do you want to go do something? It's not going to end good. But the king's edict stood despite the objections of Joab, and he goes and he leads the army. And now we're going to get he went here and he went here and he went here. I don't care where all of that is. He's going throughout the land. That's the point of it. He's going place by place by place. And we get that it takes 9 months and 20 days to go count everybody. Now, Joab is the one mustering. Couldn't Joab have sent someone to each of the 12 tribes and had each of them muster and do that and bring a report back? Why does Joab personally go and visit every single area? Doesn't say why, unless that's exactly how David worded it to do. No, you have to go do this. If it takes 9 months to do this, are we not fighting for that 9 months? Okay, so is it like we finished the battles in the spring, there's no more battles around, so go out and count them, so we'll be ready for spring next year to go out to battle? Not sure. Anyway, Joab comes back with the numbers: 800,000 who are sword-wielding warriors who are in Israel, and 500,000 who are in Judah. So 5 could be Torah, and we have a 500,000. 8, not a number that we come across often with significance. So together it's 12. So maybe it's more really a matter of putting, sorry, not 12, 13, isn't it? It's 13. So don't know why those numbers, but they're nice round numbers regardless. So now David felt guilty. What does that mean? That's not the phrasing normally. And the heart of David struck him. Okay, I see why they're translating it that. So David's heart sinks now after numbering the army. And he says, I've sinned greatly by doing this. Now, O Lord, please remove the guilt of your servant, for I've acted foolishly. When he gets up the next day, Gad comes to him and is told, go tell David he can pick his punishment. Isn't that an interesting thing? Have you ever had that, or have you ever done that as a parent? Give your kid 3 different punishments that you can let them pick. One is going to be longer than the other. So we have 7 years of famine that was in the land. I didn't remember it being 7. What do we see on the footnote there? LXX has 3 here rather than 7. Okay, and is followed by Chronicles. So Chronicles has 3. The LXX has 3, but they put 7 here. The fact that the others are 3, to me, seems like it would be also 3 here. Or you can flee for 3 months from your enemies in hot pursuit, 3 months of that, or 3 days of plague. So to me, it makes sense that it's 3 years of famine. We also had a story about 3 years of famine earlier. So this could be your punishment is another 3 years of famine. We can have 3 months of hot pursuit from your enemies, or we can have 3 days of plague in the land. Now decide what you will do. David says, I'm very upset. I prefer to be attacked by the Lord, for his mercy is great. I do not want to be attacked by human hands. So he would rather have the plague because God might show mercy during those 3 days. But there's also like this whole level of, do you want 3 years? Do you want 3 months? Or do you want 3 days? Well, 3 days is a whole lot shorter, is it not? 3 days is a whole lot shorter. I might have picked the 3 months of hot pursuit. I might have picked the 3 months of hot pursuit, but David's been on the lam before. He may not want to go back to doing that again. So, but he picks the shorter, but also his rationale is God might be merciful. God might be merciful. Also, if it's three years of famine, okay, we can endure that. So the Lord sent a plague through Israel from the morning until the completion of the appointed time, and 70,000 people died from Dan to Beersheba. When the angel extended his hand to destroy Jerusalem, the Lord relented from his judgment. He told the angel who was killing the people, "That's enough, stop there." Now the angel of the Lord was near the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. So I want to go know what that name is. So 2 Samuel 24. There it is. Araunah. I want to know what Araunah means. Araunah. Arav. That's a good little tidbit. I shall shout for joy. Is this his real name or not his real name? I shall shout for joy. So the angel stops by I shall shout for joy's threshing floor. And so now David gets to see the angel there and stops there. When he saw the angel who was destroying the people, David said, "Lord, look, it is I who have sinned and done the evil thing." So we first get God relenting, but we don't know why. But David cries out, "I'm the one who sinned and did the evil thing. As for these sheep, what have they done? Attack me and my family." So come against me, come against my family. Don't come against the people. So Gad went to David that day and told him, "Get up and build an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of I shall shout for joy." So go up and build a altar on the threshing floor of I shall shout for joy. I'm wondering if this is his real name. Like, this is just an occasion that, like, I shall shout for joy. God relents. God relents from what he is doing. So David went up to Gad as Gad instructed. When he comes to I shall shout for joy, he sees the king. He's like, "I'll give you the threshing floor." And David's like, "No, I will not give to God something that cost me nothing. So no, I'm going to pay you for it." So David bought the threshing floor, 50 pieces of silver, 50 shekels, 20 ounces. Yeah. So he buys it. But David built an altar for the Lord there and built and offered burnt sacrifices and peace offerings. So first a burnt sacrifice, then peace offerings, and the Lord accepted prayers for the land, and the plague was removed from Israel. So as David had anticipated, God would relent. God would show mercy. And when God got to the threshing floor of I shall shout for joy, he relented from it, told David what David needed to do. David did in obedience what he needed to do. He honored God, and God relented. And that's the last thing that we have going on here. So I do think that it was, and I might be wrong, but I thought this was the threshing floor, which ends up being the where the temple is built later. But we'll have to wait and stay. Like, it's one of those things, like, you read it and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's it," and then you're like, come back later, it's like, was that right? Am I got things confused? Am I mixing up stories from other places? But anyway, there we have it. We have finished 2 Samuel 24.